You just type that in. You can't copy and paste it. It's a weird glitch in Zoom. You have to manually type that in. So you type that in on the top one, streaming URL. Your Google automatically enters your email address. It's not that. It's actually the stream URL.
Right here, can you see?
Up one. Stream URL. Stream URL. Yeah.
RT.
Oh yeah.
All right, Brooke and Matt, if you just want to go into the chat and tell us when we're live on Facebook, we'll get started.
Great. Rose, it looks like we're live.
Perfect.
We have a few attendees here. So we'll maybe give folks another minute to get settled in.
Thank you everyone for attending, and while we're waiting, we can go over some housekeeping items. If it's not been clear already, this meeting will be held in English, but we are hosting a Spanish meeting on Thursday this week at the same time. Drop in any time, and you can sign up for that meeting or our email list or anything else on the website at indiotccplan.com. And if you're joining us via Facebook and you're not on Zoom, you can submit questions, like a Facebook comment, and if you are on Zoom, you can put questions in the Q&A, which I know someone has already found, and that's how we'll answer questions and communicate with people during this webinar. All right, let's get started. If I can click to my next slide, we will get started. There we go. So if you don't know where you are, we're going to talk about the Indio Transformative Climate Communities Plan tonight, which is a TCC implementation plan to make downtown and the Jewel communities healthier, more sustainable, and to continue to have Indio to be a great place to live. This is our second online public meeting, and we have recordings of our first online public meeting on YouTube, and you can find everything on our website, indiotccplan.com. If you have questions, again, Facebook comments, and during this, the Q&A function will work great. Tonight, we're going to be on for about an hour, but we should only take about 15 minutes for the presentation, so you can pop on and off as you like. We're going to talk about our team, the project, some opportunities, our results from outreach so far, because we've been at this for a couple months now, and then what's next and how you can contribute further to our plan. So our team, everyone's here tonight. We have Kevin Snyder from the city, who's the city project manager and our fearless leader. Gustavo Gomez, who's our associate planner and a wonderful resource on everything that has to do with downtown and the Jewel communities. Asha Blyer, who's our project manager over at the consulting team Dudek, which is also where I work. I'm the project manager on our side and love doing TCC work and helping identify projects for communities. And we have Erica Van Sickle, who's a planner helping out the plan. She also runs all of our Spanish events and is a great planner and native Spanish speaker. So we really appreciate having her on the team as well. The question we always get is, what is TCC? TCC is a program through the state of California, primarily focused on reducing greenhouse gases and air pollution in disadvantaged communities. It funds things like bike paths and parks and community gardens, anything that's going to make the community healthier and safer, that also reduces climate change. As a big focus on shade and responding to things like extreme heat and things that get worse because of climate change as well. So it reduces greenhouse gases and responds to climate change. Anyone has any questions about that, feel free to drop them in. It's a pretty high level grant program. It funds a lot of grants through the state of California. So there's a lot of money in TCC, including funding this project, which helps us identify what else in the project, what else in the community we should fund using state money. So what we're trying to accomplish is a priority list of what should get done in downtown and the Jewel communities. This is projects that can be done with TCC money. So like I said, parks, community centers, bike lanes, and we're trying to figure out what the community wants the most, which is why you're here, and also what's really competitive for state funding. What can we get the state to pay for? Because a lot of cities go after this money, and we want to figure out how to get the most points and the most money into Indio. So that's what we're doing right now. We're not funding any projects, just identifying how we can get the most money. We just finished up for the city of Coachella, and they've been successful at getting grants and getting state attention. So we're really excited about what this can do. And then today, we're just trying to find out what's most important to the community. The state really cares about what the community wants, and so do we. So we want to understand, what do you want to see in your community moving forward? And we'll put that right in the plan. If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to pump them in and we can answer them right now. So like I said, this is just for the Jewel community in downtown. So here's a map of the project area. This project area was chosen because it's classified as disadvantaged by the state of California. It's a really complex mapping system that decides that this is the project area, but basically the state says, compared to the rest of the state, this is one of those areas that has the worst pollution and it also has a hard time adapting to it. Lower incomes, not having access to a car. So it really, it needs funding the most, and so it's prioritized. I just saw a question come in that I'm going to just answer for everyone. So the question was, what money did Coachella receive? So Coachella received an urban greening grant, which is one of the 4 grants we'll go over. And it was a grant to add street trees and other vegetation to their community to make the streets more enjoyable, more safe, and to cool it down in the really hot weather that Coachella has. So that's one of the grant programs we're going to be looking at here for Indio as well. Just clicking to my next slide. So again, the project goals are really just to hear the community needs, use the plan in policy making and prioritizing projects. So it really is kind of a plan to plan, but it really sets us up to figure out what needs to go on the list of projects, what should we be going forward with to make the community a better place, and then most importantly, really positioning for state funding. How do we design projects so the state will want to fund them? They're pretty predictable, which is nice. So just designing them so that we're most likely to get funding. So the plan is built around 4 key topics. This is the same topics that the Coachella plan was based on. So there are community, which is things like community centers or community kitchens, places where the community can gather and get resources. Library improvements that include refrigerators for people to store their medication if there's a power outage. So anything around community gathering, community empowerment, that's a community project. There's also housing projects. Those are pretty straightforward. It's affordable housing. Generally, these affordable housings include programming to reduce your energy, bike racks, computer centers, other things that make sustainable and healthy living a great place. So community gardens are really common at affordable housing sites, and they are primarily housing. The third one is transportation. This is anything makes it easier, more comfortable, or more safe to walk or bike around. So this is things like bike lanes, shaded bus stops, sidewalks, closing streets to cars. I know we've been seeing a lot of that during COVID, just saying, nope, you can only drive on the street if you live here, which really slows the traffic down. So anything that's going to make people walk or bike more. And the last one is urban greening. And that's the one that Coachella got the money for. This is trees, parks, anything that brings in nature into a city is urban greening. If anyone has any questions, again, just pop them in on Facebook or here. Not seeing any. So now we're going to ask some questions. So you can, I think we're going to pop up a poll. I'm going to see if I can do, and ask you which one of the community projects would you want to see most? We're looking at farmers markets, community centers, and job centers. What do you think the community needs the most? Oh, and first I got a question, so I'm going to answer it. This says, is the future CV Link taken in consideration? Yes. CV Link, for those of you who don't know, was a big regional piece of infrastructure. That's a non-car, but you can take golf carts on it, biking and walking pathway through the entire valley. And it's actually a little bit built out. I think it's in Palm Springs. But it does go through Indio and it goes right by the project area. So understanding projects that connect to CV Link, like bike lanes that get you on to CV Link safely, are definitely considered. So we understand those things that are going on in the community and build off them. We want to make sure we can enhance CV Link or have those projects connect, and that actually makes us more competitive for state funding. And now I'm going to try to launch this poll. Actually, this is going to launch them all at once, so I'm going to go through the rest of my slides, and then we will launch the poll when that happens. So our second question will be, oh, sorry, I'm suddenly bad at PowerPoint. There we go. Like I said, affordable housing often has these extra things on it, so we're wondering if people want solar panels, car chargers, or high visibility crosswalks near this affordable housing to make it easier to get around without a gas powered car, obviously. And then for community greening, which projects would you like to see in community greening? Parks, community gardens, or complete streets. So this is streets where we have bike lanes, but they also have a lot of trees on them. So kind of trees and shading near streets, just for more for transportation, make it more comfortable to be on the street. And then there's one more for transportation. Oh, don't want to get sneaked. And then the last one for transportation is, which would you like to see most? Is it shaded bus stops? So you can wait for the bus in the shade. Putting bike lanes on kind of those big major streets where you can get to a lot of places, or kind of slowing down the neighborhood streets and making it safer to go on kind of smaller streets. So now I'm going to launch the poll. And you can vote for what you like the most. I'm not seeing anyone answering. Can everyone see the poll? You can, there we go. Now I'm getting people. Perfect. I'm gonna give everyone 15 more seconds to put in their desires. All right, 10 more seconds. We'll make it a full minute that this is up. And then you should be able to see those now. So for community projects, people most like a farmer's market. Housing, it was solar panels. Community garden and complete streets were tied for transportation. And then new bike lanes on major streets won for transportation. And then I'm seeing that a hand is raised. Let me. And yeah, I can't see it. And then, Brooke, do we need to pause for the live stream right now? And then someone asked if it's an official poll. So in the sense of, yes, we're gonna put all of our community results in the plan. This is the same questions we've been asking through our survey. So your responses are gonna be included with a lot of other responses in the plan. And then I was asked to relaunch it. So I will relaunch it while I wait for Brooke to tell us if we need to cut this off for the live stream. So I'm going to relaunch that poll. And then the results will be added in.
And this is Asha, just as Rose mentioned too, if you need more time to think about it, we'll also be giving out information where you can access the survey and you can answer some of these questions during that survey as well, if that's more convenient for you.
All right, I'm going to give just another 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to need another 10 seconds and then I'll close this up. So pretty similar results. Farmers market, seeing some more high visibility crosswalks, complete streets. Interesting, now I'm seeing some more slow neighborhood streets. That's awesome. And we can, these will all go into the plan, and the more community support we can show for each one, we'll bolster those applications. All right, so I'm going to share the old results. So like I said, we are asking these in our survey too. So you can go to indiotccplan.com and we'll have that link at the end of the presentation. And you can submit feedback in a lot of ways. The survey, you can upload a picture of something you like, you can join our mailing list. So there's a lot at that website. So when we asked this question this week, first we just asked, what's the most important of the four things? And that we heard that community and those community gathering spaces and those resources were the most important in our last webinar. And then we asked, so it was our last webinar, and then we asked on the survey, we heard that farmers markets are really important. So that's pretty similar to here. That's great, although I'm not sure right now because I've heard it's so hot in Indio, but definitely in those nice cool months, I think that would be awesome. And in COVID, something we're still allowed to do. So farmers markets are fantastic. And then asking about housing, heard a lot about solar panels, but everything had a good amount of interest. Transportation, learned a lot about shaded bus stops, which is interesting because we weren't hearing a lot about that here. But then people were pretty split on if bike lanes should go on major streets or neighborhood streets. And then lastly, urban greening. We heard the most about community gardens and complete streets. So pretty similar, seeing some consistency from the community about what kind of projects we like. And all of those are very, very fundable and successful. So that's exciting. So everyone on Facebook, we're kind of wrapping up our first round of this. We're gonna do it a couple more times, but talking about what's next and how to submit more feedback on this plan. So we're having some more community meetings as we finish up in the fall, and that'll be about the whole plan. So once we're done writing it, we'll have people be able to respond about the whole plan and their feelings about the projects we've identified, any changes we should be making. But if you want to get involved before that while we're still writing, anything at the website, again, indiotccplan.com. You can sign up for emails. So periodically, we send out a MailChimp email that has links to surveys or the videos, and we can update you on where the plan is, and that will remind you about other meetings. You can email comments. So it's on the website too, but it's contact@indiotccplan.com. And you can just email us comments, questions, anything, and we'll get back to you. Links to something you can't find. I sent people the Coachella plan, anything like that, just so you can get a hold of us that way. And the project website's right there. A ton of information on the project website. You can also take our survey, and then we have this cool thing where you can upload a photo or drawing. So if you want to draw or have your kids draw their perfect Indio or something they want to see in their community, your kids or you can draw that picture. We're all at home for a long time, so I encourage you to do this and upload it to our website. And you say, I want this in my community, or any other comments, and we'll put it in our plan. Same if there's an intersection that's really dangerous and you know you need a crosswalk there. Take a picture of it, send it right to us. And it's on the website. It's really, really fast in a fun way if you don't like surveys to get involved. So yeah, everything's on the website. Definitely encourage you to go there, learn more about the plan, get in contact with us. Watch old webinars if you didn't go to the last one, all that kind of stuff. So if there's any questions, we'll answer them now, and then we're just gonna run through this all again, so feel free to pop in and out as you like. So again, if you're on Facebook, you can type in Facebook comments, and then Q&A is working well on the Zoom. Give everyone a couple minutes. All right, I'm going to start the PowerPoint over again, but still, oh, there we go. I got one question, then I also PowerPoint. Would a skate park, so the question is, would a skate park be considered a community facility? So every community facility to meet grant guidelines has to do a couple things where it reduces greenhouse gases. So it reduces car trips or provides services, or is a building with solar panels, and adapt to climate change. So reduce flooding or extreme heat. So I don't think it'll be a community project. I actually think it'll be part of a park project, and then it will be designed in a way where it provides parks close to people's homes, so people aren't driving as much to other skate parks. So that's how it would fit in. And then we design it in a way where there's lots of trees and the cement is a certain color, so that on hot days, it's an easier skate park to use. So I think it'd be more of a park project, but definitely an applicable project or part of a bigger applicable project for the community. All right, so again, I'm going to start the PowerPoint over. Oh, and then I'm seeing another question. Would it need to be multi-purpose use? No, but the more community support or involvement we can show is good. And then also we need to prove air quality improvements, and then anything related to extreme heat or flooding, so trees. So we need to make sure we're adding components that address issues of climate change. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. And then this is, if you need, there's the email and the website. And then we will start over. So if you're just joining us on Facebook or on the Zoom, we're just going to go through this a couple of times, and people can pop in and out and ask questions. And this will also be available on Facebook. It'll be recorded, or on YouTube. We'll send out a link to it if you didn't get everything you needed. And I just got a question I'm gonna kind of give to the city. So Kevin and Gus, the question is, would Indio consider golf carts being legal on city streets similar to Palm Desert?
That's a really good question. That would be a conversation that we would have to have with our public works director, our police chief, and our city council and city manager. So I don't have an immediate answer, but it's always something we could ask.
All right. And then also, if you want to actually talk during the meeting, if you're on the Zoom, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you if that's an easier way to communicate. And then if you're on Facebook, it's just comments, and then we'll get them answered here live. And then I saw another comment, the public can have a say. So yes, every project needs to be well vetted through. This is just a plan to figure out what's competitive and what can happen through state funding. Anything actually being built is going to go through a separate process. And Kevin, I don't know if you want to talk more about that, but it will go through a public vetting, a grant application. So this isn't saying anything specifically is going to be built if we put it in the plan. It's just a list of, it's kind of a wish list and ideas of things that are designed to the state's criteria to get them paid for, which includes things the community really, really likes.
Right, to add what Rose said, so this is a plan that will identify what the community needs and interests and wants are. From this planning effort, then city staff working with city leadership, including the city council and the community, will identify those projects that we want to pursue funding for. It could be a project that would, for example, introduce complete streets. It could be funding for new parks or a community center, but we will work to identify those. We'll work to engage the community more, and then ultimately we will be working with our city council to determine how to best bring those forward. Applying for the funds doesn't always mean you get the funds, but that's the key first step, if you will. And our goal using this plan will be to pivot off of what the community tells us and go after those funds for projects that the community finds of value and interest in and wants.
Awesome. So anyone, again, joining us on Facebook, we're just going to run through this a couple times. And if you're looking for the Spanish meeting, same place, same time, just on Thursday. And then again, I encourage everyone to go to the website. There's a ton of information there and a lot of ways to get involved. And we really want everyone's feedback, pictures, photos, dreams, ideas. We want them all. So this is our second community meeting. We had community meetings initially in June. You can find recordings of those on YouTube. I've watched them, they're very great. If you wanna see our old community meetings and get feedback on those. Right now we're trying to get a really good feeling for what kind of projects the community wants to see and what we should be including in the plan. So we're gonna run through this a couple times. I'm going to introduce our team really fast, give a project overview, talk about some opportunities, what we've seen so far in outreach, and then talk about what's next. And then again, if you're on Facebook, just type in questions to Facebook and we'll get them into our systems and answered live. So our team, we have Kevin Snyder from the city. He's the city project manager in Indio and our fearless leader and a great champion for this project. And he can answer all city related questions. Gus Gomez, who's the assistant planner and been really, really helpful at getting information and writing the plan. Asha Blyer, who's our principal over here at Dudek. Dudek is the consulting firm writing the plan. So this is what we spend our days doing. And we do a lot of TCC plans. We just finished one for Coachella. And this is our bread and butter, so we really like doing them. I also work at Dudek and was the lead planner on the Coachella plan that wrapped up last year. And we're seeing some funding come out of the state for that, and that's been really exciting. And then last but certainly not least, we have Erica Van Sickle, who's one of our planners and also runs all of our Spanish events. She's both a very talented planner and a native Spanish speaker. So if you want to see her speak on Thursday, I encourage that. So the first question we always get is, what is TCC? So this is a TCC planning program. TCC is a big state kind of system of grants. And so it's the state funding a lot of things, both plans, just written documents, and actual projects. It funds things that make communities more sustainable and healthy, focusing on disadvantaged communities. So communities that face the most pollution and have the fewest resources to adapt to it. So they're really prioritized in these programs. And there's special cutouts in the state of California for funding projects in disadvantaged communities, and TCC is one of them. So it funds a lot of different kinds of projects. We're going to talk about housing projects. So it funds just building affordable housing. It funds community projects, so a place where people can gather, cooling centers where you can go on a hot day, community centers, resources. And then not through TCC, but kind of adjacent, there's also funding for transportation, bike lanes, sidewalks, shaded bus stops, those kinds of things. And then also for urban greening, which is just getting trees and parks, community gardens into communities. And some of these cross over. That's some of the things that it funds. But really is TCC is kind of what you can dream, as long as it helps people live more healthy and sustainable lives, and we can prove that it helps with climate change. They're pretty open to it. So we're excited to hear everyone's ideas. So what are we trying to accomplish? We want to understand what the community needs to make their lives great. What are you missing? Is it sidewalks? Is it food? What does the community need the most, and what should we be prioritizing? This is really important in funding because the state, they explicitly ask, what did the community say about this? How can you show that this matters? So we want to know what matters. So today we're just trying to figure out what's important, what we should be prioritizing, and gathering some data to support. If we say, you should fund a community garden here, state, or really what we're saying to the city is, you should ask the state for money for a community garden, we can back it up by saying, at our community meeting, everybody really wanted this. We got emails about this. There's a really strong community desire, and it's a broad base of support. So we're trying to understand what's the most important. What should me, a consultant, tell the city, and then Kevin can tell City Council, this is what we need to be doing. So the project is not a citywide plan. It's just for, well, you can see the project area on the screen, but what's typically known as the Jewel community, which is over here north of Avenue 45, and this is Indio Boulevard. And then kind of downtown in the Sun Gulch community, this is gonna be southwest of Indio Boulevard. And this area was chosen because it qualifies as disadvantaged. And that just means the state has a crazy map with a lot of information that said that this community is the most hurt by climate change and pollution and has the fewest resources to adapt to it. I believe it's like the top 5% of the state. So compared to statewide, this is a community that's struggling, and then it's one of the only communities that it can even apply for these funds. So we're not competing with a lot of other cities. It's just other communities that also qualify for the state. So that's why it's just this little part, not little part, but these communities. It's not a citywide plan. Very, very focused. So the project, again, we really want to understand what the community wants. It's the biggest one because we're writing a kind of a list of projects. So we're writing up, a community garden should go here, and we're basing that off of some things that we know as city planners about where things should go and what's safe, but mostly what the community wants. That this is far away from a grocery store, and that's where we want it. So we're trying to figure out what the general needs are, and then make a really good list of what's important and what can get funding. That's what this plan is at the end of the day. It's really a roadmap to ask the state for funding. I'm going to pause a second to see if anyone has any questions. And someone just popped in. Perfect. So someone just kind of had a comment that said, walkable and a place to hang out, would love to see more access to nature and open spaces. Yes, walkability, so making it comfortable to walk and bike around a community is something that's very fundable. We see this through bike lanes, sidewalks, trees, because what makes it comfortable to walk and bike, we don't want cars speeding past us. We want it to be shady. So making the community walkable, but also having places to walk to, like parks, like community centers. That's also really important. So those are all very fundable things, and we're going to put this back in our public outreach chapter and add that to all of our project ideas. So if anyone has any project ideas, please submit them in the Facebook comments or anything on Zoom. So kind of like I said before, the plan is built on 4 kind of key ideas that do have some crossover. So we're thinking about community. These are places for people to gather, share resources like community centers. Sometimes we see community solar products, so it's solar panels that the community shares, so everybody's energy bills go down. So shared resources that make it healthier, safer, and less polluted. Those are community projects. They can fund a lot of different things. It's a pretty broad base of, it's a catch-all category. Housing, it's affordable housing. It's developments where people can live, and there's usually other improvements that make them healthy and safe places. They can have bike shares, they can have electric car shares, they can have community gardens. So they're both affordable places to live, but also great places to live. And because it's through TCC, we need to show some environmental benefits to get the funding. So they're really environmentally friendly places to live. And there's a lot of agency funding to go around. There's urban greening, which again, it's bringing nature. Indio's hot, and maybe you want trees and shade around to make it more enjoyable to be outside. That's urban greening. Also parks, community gardens, lots of options. Anything with nature. I will tell you right now, reading through those requirements, they love shade. Anything with shade is what's going to get you urban greening points. And then the last one is transportation. This is anything that makes it more comfortable to walk, bike, or take the bus. Anything that's not using a gas-powered car or is transportation projects. So even thinking about safe places to go to, how to walk to school more safely. That's a transportation project. I'm gonna wait a second to see if anyone has comments or if anyone wants to jump in. And again, if you're on Facebook, just type it right in the comments and we'll answer it. So the other comment that came in was, look how brown our city maps are. No lakes, no waters, no water play, no duck ponds, but there are some cities next door. I think that gets at a point about why this program exclusively looks at disadvantaged communities. You do see these disparities. I was reading something last night about how communities that were redlined, so that were racially segregated in the past, are now actually 7 degrees hotter on hot days, just because of the way that our communities were designed. And so that's something we're looking to change in these grants. So we're saying what communities need it and how can we add a lot of lush trees and shade and comfortable other nature to make it a better place to live. It also really cleans the air. So that's a big part of TCC and something we're looking at. That's also what the city of Coachella really focused on. One of the things they focused on in their grant and has gotten money for. And then Kevin, I'm gonna give you the question about the poly pool, because I don't know much about the poly pool.
Apologies, I was having a problem there with my mute. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, let me actually, I'm going to send it to you.
I don't have it.
Technology is fun. And thank you everyone for submitting your comments on Facebook or here. That's been awesome. And while Kevin's looking at that, I'm actually going to answer the next one, which is city speed limits being high, and people not feeling safe and needing access to nature, especially now when things are closed. So I can't speak to city speed limits, but what I can say is no matter what the speed limit is, if you have trees on a street, it'll actually slow traffic down. So we know that speed and we know how streets can be designed to feel less or more safe, and we are looking at where to make improvements. It's called complete streets. So how do you make a street for everybody? We're looking at where we should do that using some previous plans the city wrote, the Safe Routes to School plan, the Complete Streets plan, and figuring out where it should be prioritized to make those improvements, because it can be dangerous to walk a bike. And even if it's not dangerous, it can just be scary, and you're not going to do it if it's scary. And I just saw someone say that biking on Varner is dangerous near Washington, so we're going to note that in our plan and add that to our description of where we think there should be improvement. So if anyone else has comments about where you want bike lanes or anything else, please type them in and we're going to put them in our plan. And then Kevin, now I'll hand it back to you about the poly pool.
Great, thank you. So Poly Pool is actually not owned by the city, it's owned by the Desert Recreational District, but we have been working with them. They have improvement plans that they are currently working on to upgrade the pool, as well as some of the parking and other amenities out there. So we are working with them. Unfortunately, I don't have a timetable for that, but it is something that they have identified as a project, and they will be working to make those improvements over time. We can certainly get more information from the Desert Rec folks and post that information on the project website in response to that question. But there is a plan to make improvements to it. And I just want to echo what on the topic of concerns about speed on certain city streets. We will note those. Speed limits are typically set through efforts by both our Public Works Department and our Police Department. And so we'll bring the speeding concerns to their attention and see if there are opportunities to look at speed on those streets and potential ways to address the concerns. So thank you for bringing those to our attention.
Awesome. And then again, if you want to kind of get in contact with us more, you can keep answering comments and questions here, but there's also an email on the website so we can get back to you and forward things to the right people. That's contact@indiotcc.com on our website. So submit everything here, but yeah, if you have questions or comments, we're more than happy to answer them there. But these will all go in the plan.
Rose, I also wanted to say, I know one of the comments was concern about how brown the city is, and obviously we live in a desert environment, so there is some natural tendency towards brown, and there was concern about not having lakes or water structures, water play, duck ponds, things like that are available in other cities, and we understand that the city, is somewhat different in the sense that some of the other cities do have their own park systems. We work directly with both Desert Rec, and then we have a number of small, a limited number of city parks that we manage. But we will note those questions and concerns and make sure that those are all looked into. I would remind everyone that this plan itself is actually focused on a very small portion of our city. And so in this area, the project study area, your suggestions about ways that we could improve the greening of this area is really important, because again, that's how we'll be able to go after funding in the future to be able to hopefully bring some projects back that will benefit the study area.
Yeah. And the map, I'll go through the map again, but it's also on our website if anyone's confused about where the study area is for downtown and the dual communities. So I think that those are great additions. Thank you, Kevin. And then we're not going to launch the poll again on Zoom, but if you're watching on Facebook, you can also take our survey. It's the same questions. We're trying to see what's most important. So if you're thinking about community projects, what's most important? Do you want to see farmers markets? Do you want to see community centers? Do you want to see job centers? We ran this a couple minutes ago. We saw that farmers markets really important. So we're trying to get a feel for what's most important for the community. So we'll let people on Facebook put in any comments about community projects before we move on. We just got a question in from Facebook, and it says, what percentage of the area is designated as commercial or residential? I don't know offhand, although I can figure that out. It's very noble, but what I will say is that obviously downtown has more commercial uses, and the Jewel community and the Songgo community are more residential. So there's portions of both, and those communities have different needs and different opportunities depending on, and also connecting them, how to walk between business and housing, because people often go to both during a day. So there's the downtown area, very commercial, and then the residential areas outside of it.
And this is Kevin, if I can add. So the city just got done completing and approving a downtown specific plan. And our hope is over the next 10 to 20 years, we will see both more residential and commercial uses in downtown. Right now, there's probably a larger percentage, honestly, in downtown of residential uses than commercial uses, but we hope to be able to have more of a balance. In the Jewel community area, this is an older section of our community, more historic area of our city. So I would say that there's, except for Jackson Street, there's more largely residential. Obviously, Jackson serves as somewhat of a commercial corridor in our community. So there are some commercial uses centered along there. Well, it's hard to say percentages. Probably in the study area, it's probably a 60-40, 60% residential, 40% commercial split today. But based on the things I just described, that could change in the future a little bit, at least in downtown.
Thanks, Kevin. Again, these questions are also on our survey on our website at indiotccplan.com, so you can feel free to answer them there. The next thing we're going to look at is affordable housing. So like we said, affordable housing is housing primarily, but they have these improvements to make it healthier, safer, more environmentally friendly. So we're kind of looking at what could make affordable housing the best. What add-ons do you want? And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to read a comment. So the comment is, a community center with a library and a park space. Before it is said that our library is a county library and we need a small city one within our city-run community center, and open amphitheater for performances. I understand what a county library versus city library is, but I can let Kevin speak a little bit more to that. But I think a community center and the idea of, a library kind of is a community center, right? They lend books, but also have access to resources. So I think just places where communities can share resources, computers, books, whatever it is, those are very fundable TCC projects. So that's great. And park space is obviously very important in a community. So I think that's a great comment, and we'll include it. Kevin, do you have anything to say about the library or how those work?
No, I mean, the person posing the question is correct. We have a county run facility in our city, but I think the idea of a community center with maybe a book share program or a small book lending library component to it is a great idea. And for those that either can't or would prefer not to have to come to downtown to go to the library, that is an option. Those are the kind of things. We also have, it's kind of it kind of pops up, but we also have where the community has gotten together and they've established their own little lending stations in their neighborhoods, and that's another option to look at, where folks can share books. They typically build a little structure to hold them, and that's something that some communities have started to fund, to actually bring reading directly to the neighborhoods. So that is another idea we could look at.
Yeah. And then the other thing I want to point out about libraries is that some other things they provide are often just places you can go when it's really hot. They're often cooling centers. Me and my husband, when we used to live in a very hot city, Sacramento, and we didn't want to run our AC, it was too expensive. So we go hang out at the library. And so there's other community places and services that those are really important and again, are definitely applicable to TCC. And the next comment I'm seeing is a community open market or an at-home for business owners. So we've seen that comment before. This is great. And we love hearing the same comments a lot because it means there's a lot of support. So yes, we have heard, and that kind of goes on the library comment, a place where people can share. I've heard do art, do homework, just a shared space that isn't home for businesses or students to interact and have a safe, cool, shared space. Awesome. So we'll see some comments when I'm going to switch to the next one. And then to remind everyone, your comments are being recorded. Sorry, I skipped slides. So they'll be included in the plan. So these help us back up our recommendations and tell the state why we are recommending what we're recommending. So the next one is urban greening. So like we're saying, this is bringing nature into the communities. Do you think that this area of town needs more parks, needs community gardens, or needs complete streets? So complete streets, again, are streets that are safe for everybody, walking, biking. The reason they're in urban greening is so they have trees, which will slow down cars and make it more comfortable for people to walk and bike because it's cooler and because the cars are traveling slower, even without slowing down the speed limit. So we'll give everyone a little bit of time to kind of pop in their questions to Facebook or to Zoom, and we'll get this answered. I'll give people a few more seconds. And again, you can comment anytime, take our survey, email us. Just when the webinar's over is not the only time you can give this feedback. Or go to the website, indiotccplan.com. There's lots of ways there to interact. All right, I'm going to skip to the next slide, but if you have comments on urban greening, still put them on Facebook, the chat. They're welcome. And the last one is for transportation. Is it most important to have shaded bus stops? So places where you can sit, maybe even with a touchless water fountain, a safe place to sit for the bus and wait where it's not that hot. New bike lanes on major streets. So these are Indio Boulevard, other big streets that the benefit is they get you where you need to go. They connect a lot of things. Or do you want to see more biking and walking on kind of smaller streets where there's fewer cars and it's more around the neighborhood? That will kind of get you more to school or the park more than to work. So kind of major streets, neighborhood streets, or the bus. Like what's the most important? What should we be saying? City, you should really go after this funding to make this easier. And you can put those in Facebook or into Zoom. Give everyone about a minute. All right, I'm not seeing anything, but again, please continue to post, or if you're watching this later, you can email us your ideas at indiotccplan.com or take the survey there as well. So if you're watching this not on August 11th, there's still lots of ways to participate.
Rose, if you don't mind, I wanted to also mention before we get started on showing some of the past poll results, about how we also have an opportunity for you folks to, even if you have photos that you want to share or any specific areas when we're talking about mobility and complete streets and just making it safe for everyone, bikers, walkers, and so forth. we would really encourage, any level of specificity if you have even certain intersections or concerns. And like I mentioned too, we also have the option to, if you don't have the time to, complete a full survey, you could even just submit a photograph or even a drawing. This plan is so focused on really hearing from you as a community. So I just wanted to reinforce that. Thank you.
Thanks, Sasha. That is really important. And there's a really easy form on the website to do that. So even for kids that are stuck at home, drawing a picture of something they really want to see in your community, and you can just send them to us via email or right on the top of our website. You can submit them right there. It's pretty easy. So we would love your pictures and your photos. You can print out Google Maps and point out where you want a bike lane. Anything is welcome. We really, really appreciate all the feedback. I'm seeing a comment from Facebook before I move on. Funding to close city streets around established parks for outdoor family fun. I, to be completely biased, I think that's a great idea. I think we've seen that a lot during COVID, that we're closing more streets around parks and community centers just to give people more space to be, since we can't be within 6 feet of each other. So that's something we're definitely looking at and understanding where our streets, especially if people maybe don't go, people stay working at home or things change, at least for the next little bit, how we can work with that and close, figure out where to close streets and add shade to make those neighborhood streets a lot safer. So that's a great comment. And personally one I really like, and I want them to close a lot of my neighborhood streets to make it quieter and safer for us to walk around.
And Rose, this is Kevin. If I could just add, so in downtown we have Miles Avenue Park, which is one of our major parks. And so we do have that park facility in downtown, and we will note that for the downtown area. But in the Jewel community, we really don't have a lot of current park facilities. So it'd be really helpful if the public can assist us in identifying where some good potential locations that they think would be beneficial to the community for parks in the Jewel community could be located. So as folks think about parks in general, just keep in mind that the Jewel community is somewhat underserved by parks. And so we'd love to hear your feedback about where parks could be in that particular area of our city.
Thanks, Kevin. I think that's a really good point. We are looking at more things than parks, also gardens, also complete streets. But if a community just doesn't have a park and a space to gather, that is really important. And we would love, again, if you have a vacant lot, go take a picture of it, email it to us. We're also doing some of this on the back end too. But if there's a place where you really want a park, we would love to hear that. Especially if there's northeast of Indio Boulevard, there's not a lot of parks, and getting around, then you have to cross Indio Boulevard, can be really dangerous. So I think that'd be a really good improvement. If anyone has any recommendations, it goes a really long way with the state saying that you want that. So I just saw another comment saying maybe a back to school campaign for local schools and educators to draw us pictures for the plan. That's a great idea. When we used to go in person, last year, there was something that planners would do a lot, would go into schools and ask. And I think that's a really good idea. I think once everyone gets used to the school year a little bit, in a couple of weeks, that we can really explore that with the school district and getting youth involved. But if you're bored with your kids right now, they can submit a picture before we do that. And we'll add it in the plan. But I think that's a really good comment, and we love hearing from youth, because as city planners, what we do is often very long term and really for the future. So I think that's a really good idea. All right, so like I said before, this is our second webinar. So if you want to watch the first one, it's on YouTube, it's on our project website, and you can email me and I will send it to you. But what we heard at that webinar is that the idea of community spaces was the most important. There was a real desire for community centers, places to gather, things like the library that we were talking about, these shared resources that people have places to gather, stay cool, grab books, maybe talk to local business owners, but these really community spaces. So once we're all together again, we can share those resources and have those safe community spaces. So that's what we heard last time. And then, Kevin, I just saw a question about parks that came in, and it says, what's happening to the Eisenhower School? Did it close? I actually had the same question when I was reading the Complete Streets Plan. Do you know what happened to the Eisenhower School?
So I'm not aware that the Eisenhower School has closed, but one of the things that typically school facilities are not city facilities, they're school district facilities. So a lot of times you'll see either cities wanting to have park facilities that are separate so that they can provide the recreational amenities. Sometimes there's a partnering between the school districts and the cities. But I will have to note about Eisenhower. I'm not aware of any changes with Eisenhower that I've heard of or been made aware of. And I will actually check. I will actually look, take a moment here as you continue to talk, Rose, to check online and see if I can find anything out.
Yeah, there's some notes in the Complete Streets, not the Safe Routes to School plan, and I also was going to flag it for you. So I'm glad that someone reminded me to do that. But I think that's a good point about schools, that there can be shared spaces, but kind of really understanding who has control and who can go. Sometimes the opportunity with schools is there because they're already built, they're co-funded, but then who has control and when can people go is the other tricky part. So we'll look into that and kind of look at capitalizing on those shared spaces. So these are results from our survey, and our survey is still open. So if you have different opinions or the same opinion, please go to our website and take our survey. It's really, really quick, and there's lots of nice pictures. But so far, we've gotten some results. And when we asked about these communities, these shared places, we heard a lot about farmers markets. We've also heard some of that today. These bring access to food, obviously, and are one of those places you can still go during COVID because they're outside to access healthy food. So we've heard that a lot. And even after COVID, farmers markets will still be cool, but right now it's a little bit safer than maybe the grocery store. So we heard a lot about those, but also job centers and community centers. And if you have any comments on these, please drop them in or go to our survey. When we asked about housing and improvements for housing, we heard most about solar panels, but also about crosswalks and car shares. And so being able to use an electric car or a golf cart and charge it at the affordable housing site. So we're thinking about how to make affordable housing the most healthy and the most sustainable. So heard a lot about solar panels, and there's a lot of sun in India. So I think that's a great idea. And then again, we asked about transportation. And we heard the most about bus stops, about making it comfortable to wait for the bus, which I think is really important. And also looking at, especially the Jewel community, but also downtown, people that live in these areas are a little bit less likely to have cars than the rest of the city and are going to depend on the bus and walking and biking to get to work, to buy food, to get their kids to school. And so understanding how we can make that safe and comfortable is really, really important. And then lastly, we asked about urban greening. So what urban greening should we put in the city? And the most popular comments were complete streets and community gardens, but parks were also up there. And these aren't, we do want to know what's the most important, but also where these should go. So if you think that a park's really important and you have a location for it, please let us know, either the comments here or through our email. Same with community gardens. I have a little map of vacant parcels we can make gardens, but would love to know where the community thinks that a community garden or a park would just be the most beneficial, make their lives the best. So now that we're closing in on the end of our webinar, we're going to talk about what's next and how to get a hold of us, how to get more comments and pictures and photos. So we're going to do another round of outreach meetings. We're going to, in the fall, when we're done with the plan or done with our first draft, we're going to go to the community again, post it on the website, and people can read the plan and add their comments, make adjustments, suggest new sites, vote for their favorites, things like that. So we're going to have those in the fall, very similar to this. In the meantime, if you can't wait to hear from us, you can go to our website, indiotcc.com or indiotccplan.com. No idea where the other one takes you. You can sign up for email updates. So that's just a way that we periodically will send out emails to everyone saying, take the survey, keeping everyone updated. That way you'll actually know about meetings that come up. You can also just email me from that website, and I'll get anything applicable over to the city. This could be your ideas or questions or comments, just a simple email. You can also take the survey that we just talked about and give your ideas and make those graphs change. And then like Asha was saying, right at the top, there's a place to upload photos or pictures. So again, go outside if you feel safe and take photos of things either you love, or if you went on vacation somewhere else and you're like, dude, we need this in Indio. Submit that picture too and talk about it. Okay, you know, this park in San Diego is so cool. I want an Indio. This is why. You can submit those. So either be pictures you take now or pictures of things that you love somewhere else. And that's an easier way for you to communicate. Those can also go on the website, or drawings, or if you want to build it out of Legos and send us that picture, we'll take that too. So that's all on our website, and the URL is right here. And I'm sure it's also on the Facebook page. So that please go to those places. I also just got a new comment, which is greening projects and community gathering spaces near commercial areas to encourage people to shop in Indio. That's great, and that's really shown that if we can make it more comfortable to shop and stick around in downtown areas because you feel safe, it's comfortable, it's beautiful, people are more likely to spend money. So those are great comments. We will definitely add that into our plan. So we'll stick around for a couple more minutes if anyone has questions. And then again, once we sign off, the website's great. You can email us anything. So just as when we hit stop on the webinar, doesn't mean you can't get a hold of us.
So Rose, this is Kevin again.
Yeah.
I wanted to follow up on that question about Eisenhower Elementary. So I went to the Desert Sands School District website. It appears that has effective this school year has become the Eisenhower Community Education Center. And it offers programs for folks to obtain their high school diploma. It also offers for general education development, or GED, or high school equivalency, I can't say the word, test. And then also offers citizenship classes, as well as English as second language classes. So it appears that the district has converted the facility into a community education center. And so that is the role of that property now in terms of providing services to the community.
That's great. Thank you, Kevin, for looking into that. So also people now think that we need better bike lanes to get to that facility. That's something we'll be interested in as well. So thinking about that as a real resource to the community and how we can make it even better. Brooke, did you want to ask me? I saw you just turn your video on.
Yes, I did. And I just wanted to say, too, that the person who runs Eisenhower Continuing Education Center is the same person who is the principal at Amistad High School. That's Dr. Dave Gustafson. And so we have all kinds of information about the programs that they offer there on our social media site, and also have featured some of the programs that they do in conjunction with different community partners, vocational programs, as well as bilingual education classes. So there's a trove of resources there, and it is literally situated next to Amistad High School.
Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you.
So before we sign off, we've got a couple more comments about the importance of safety in these plans. I think that's really important. Needing for lighting and signaling to make sure it's really, really safe. That's huge. And we right now we have a map of kind of where it's most dangerous in the area to walk or bike, where we see the most cars hitting people on bikes or walking. But if you have specific areas or projects, again, email us, go out and take a picture so we can say, it's this crosswalk, fund this crosswalk, this needs a light, this is the bike lane I want. I think those are really good comments, and we are looking for kind of specific places to actually make those improvements in this plan. And then also I'm just thinking about more about affordable housing. It's awesome. Yeah, I think affordable housing gentrification, affordable housing is really important in these communities. So we're excited to add that to the plan. But we're about 7 minutes over, so I was going to let city staff or anyone jump in for their last final comments before we sign off, and encourage everyone, if you have more things to say, go to our website. Again, there's a lot of ways to interact there, and we'd love to hear more from you.
I just want to thank everyone on behalf of the city for taking the time to participate. and give us your thoughts and your ideas. To reiterate, this is a plan that's focused on the downtown and the jewel community of our city, and but a number of the comments have been citywide, and we're making note of them, and we will be passing them along to the appropriate people. Our real hope is that we will continue to get the feedback from the community to help form and shape this plan. Our goal is to have this plan done by the end of the year, the calendar year. So hopefully by January of 2021, we'll have the plan done. We'll have it in front of our city council and they can sign off on it. And from there, we want to start moving down the road to looking into how we can make some of these important community projects happen. So having your input as community members, as residents, and as business owners is really important, because those funders are going to be really interested in how we engage with the community. So please take advantage of all these opportunities that we've been talking about to give us your feedback. And if you didn't want to participate in this Zoom or Facebook environment, please go to the website and give us your feedback directly there. We really want and need to hear from you so that this plan reflects what you as a community members want, and that we will hopefully be able to be successful in the future in getting those projects to happen for you. So thank you again on behalf of the city.
Thanks, Kevin. And then Brooke, I cannot end the meeting. So if you can end it on your end, we'll call it a night.